Let's go back to our main story now. This morning, the Prime Minister, Theresa May, preparing for that special meeting with the Cabinet later today to discuss how the UK should respond to President Assad's alleged chemical attack in Syria.
We can talk to Peter Ford, who's a former ambassador to Syria. He's now a member of the lobby group, the British Syrian Society, which does have links to the Assad family. And Peter's been a long-term critic of Western policy in the country. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming in. Let's first of all start with this chemical attack. Do you think that President Assad is responsible for this?
No, I don't, because the evidence is extremely thin to vanishing. All the sources of information about this attack come from the side of the militant Islamist armed groups. Without exception, all the information. There is not one single source of independent information on what actually happened in Douma. And there is every reason to believe that the Islamists have mounted a fake attack in order to stampede the West into coming down.
When you say fake attack, what do you mean?
That there was no chemical attack, that the images are probably faked. The important thing is to get the international inspectors into Douma, and they are in Damascus now, they're on their way. The important thing is to get the inspectors in to verify what I've just said.
The World Health Organization doesn't believe these images were faked.
The WHO has repeated claims made by the same sources that produced the videos, that is, by the Islamist militants, not by any independent observers.
And President...
This is a crucial detail. There is absolutely no impartial evidence. The BBC itself, Naga, can I remind you, is saying that the images in the videos are unverified. Is that not correct?
That is correct. But President Assad, is it not correct, has been found to have used chemical weapons before. Do you understand why there is this collation of evidence or collation of assumptions that has put him in the spotlight and put him down as someone who is responsible for these attacks? He's done it before.
The important thing is to get inspectors in now to verify the facts of what happened in the last several days. Whatever happened in the past, and that is still open to question. If you actually look at the report by the UN inspectors from the attack 1 year ago, you will see troubling facts, such as that some of the alleged victims were presenting to hospital 1 hour before the Syrian planes had even left the ground.
OK, let's move on from whether this is fact or not. Let's say evidence has been found to prove that President Assad was behind this attack, and look at which is where the US appears to be at this moment in time.
The US does not appear to be there. General Mattis yesterday was saying that the evidence, the assessment, cannot yet be concluded because all the evidence is not yet
Well, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has threatened to bomb Syria. That's where he's at this moment in time.
Well,
and strike with missiles. What do you make of that?
We all know that President Trump says things, and his generals, who know what they're talking about, say something else. General Mattis, who does know probably what he's talking about, says that the assessment is continuing. That can only mean that the evidence is not yet in.
Looking at what the Russian ambassador has said, the Russian ambassador to Lebanon, there's also strong language there, strong exchanges there. What do you make of this situation, this diplomatic situation now? Where do you see it going next? We have an emergency cabinet meeting called today by our Prime Minister.
It's hair-raising, and the idea that we could be going into a possible hot war with Russia, because the scope for miscalculation and accidents is enormous, the idea that we could be going into such a dangerous conflict on the basis of contested images and reports from jihadi sources such as the White Helmets, who are the so-called first responders, who are Islamist militants who help in beheadings and amputations of hands and feet. And it's on the testimony of such first responders and so-called monitors that this country might be on the point of making another grave mistake. And let me remind you, please, about Iraq, when we were so confident, were we not? All the intelligence, you remember Colin Powell? Please, let us not have another case of being taken to war on a false prospectus.
You lie very much away from the consensus in the West when it comes to what President Assad has done in the past. And you were obviously bringing those views to this sofa this morning. What do you think is going to be discussed now in this meeting today, in this cabinet meeting with Theresa May? Where do you expect this to lead? You said it was hairy.
I think that the evidence that is mounting that Mrs. May is developing doubts about the wisdom of ignoring Parliament, of ignoring the absence of evidence, of the dangers of going into a rash action before the inspectors from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, who are on site, have gone in. I think she will hear around the table voices urging caution, and if this is not the case, then I'm afraid she's going to make the day for Jeremy Corbyn, who will make hay if and when it transpires that the evidence for the attacks doesn't bear out after the event.
Peter Ford, former UK ambassador to Syria, also director of the British Syrian Society. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Yes, it is worth saying we're very much hearing different voices in connection with what's happening in Syria at the moment. 8:10 this morning, hearing from Lord Richard Dunnit, former head of the British Army, of course, and we'll be hearing his reflections on what might happen next in relation to Syria a little later on.